incarcerated in the United States than all of the industrial countries in the world. And that reality impacts in ways that we have yet to imagine. This prison industrial complex has become so insidious that it has swallowed up whole communities.
Yo, how the fuck do I heal from this? You got mass incarceration, oppression, racism. You gotta find some type of system to grab and heal from it, because if you don't, shit's really gonna fuck you up. It's gonna fuck you up bad too.
What you know about hopelessness? What you know about hopelessness? Watch your back, cause everywhere you turn is hopelessness. Turning everything beautiful into some hopelessness. All our lives we've been running from hopelessness. Yeah. What you know about hopelessness? All our feelings been colonized. All our feelings been traumatized. Inherit the feeling, the blood spilling, getting whipped on my back like 1,000 times. Back to the basics. I'm like Morpheus when I'm fighting the Matrix. Can't eat, can't sleep, but I had to be patient. Enslaving some ape shit.
Responding to historical tragedy. Now we all in the building. They gonna be mad at we. Holla.
So basically, this is about what Victor was getting at earlier about attentive listening. So basically, whoever is going to be the person who's going to ask the question should really be deeply listening to the person who's going to be speaking. And you can't be talking about anything else, not even commenting about something they said. And if they didn't even say anything after you asked them a question, it's okay. It's okay to give them space. It's okay to let them be quiet and do whatever they want to do and speak how they feel. All right, the first question A is asking B is, who are you?
I'm Corey from Queens. I'm 35 years old. I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm black. I'm Mississippi Delta. And saying that a different way is connected to like deep social exclusion. And from a spirit that's trying to run towards freedom, that's trying to like find liberation. So I was born in New York, and I was born in Queens, New York, at the Barn Building on 96th Street. Our block was really into like the underground economy, deep underground economy, and people on the block was like trying to survive and resisting. So within that, like, there's a lot of details in that. There's a lot of love, and there's a lot of community, and there's a lot of like trauma and abuse and neglect and destroying, you know? Our neighborhood was being fucked over by the crack epidemic. Like, no matter if our mothers, aunts, cousins, sisters were fucked up by it, and we was killing each other over it. We was selling to each other, and that shit was killing us. And that shit was government stamped and strategically placed in our communities to perpetuate mad harm. So I watched the crack epidemic on my block, on the street corner, and at home, in my project, in the hallway. So I seen how it functions deeply, and that's part of who I am as well. People talk a little bit about it when they talk about the war on drugs, but they talk about it from like some policy standpoint, some mass incarceration standpoint, but thinking about the trauma, the long impact of like with the crack epidemic, and I could just talk about me and my moms and my sister. My sister still don't fuck with my moms. I'm somebody who like watched their mother like deal with the crack epidemic in their home. My mom was impacted by the crack epidemic when I was like 4. My mom was, you know, she was using drugs from the 80s to all the way 2002, so about 20 years. Like my first 21 years, My mom's was using drugs, crack cocaine. There's like real moments tapping into like deep humanity, like moments like when my mom's and me go to bed in like our little basement and like I wake up at like 2 o'clock and she's gone. She's trying to find her mission. She's trying to find her next hit. At like 9, 10, I had to like figure out what it means to be human. Like my mom's not here, I gotta wash clothes or I gotta like wear the same clothes and I gotta meet my friends and like on the block 10 minutes from now because we about to walk to school together and then I gotta be in classroom and figure out how to be a student in classroom. I remember playing these things out at 9 and then later building my mom's about this like, yo, not in deep ways, but like, yo, like that shit was fucked up pretty much. So those are like the ingredients of like growing up in this. And like on my block with cops coming in, like real moments of shooting, people selling drugs, and people loving each other in barbecues, constant conflict, constant tension, constant celebration, constant reminder of like, oh shit, this is happening. Like you gotta be here, like this is really going down.
I'm from mad music, mad hip hop. I'm from mad like Mary J. Blige. Mother on Sundays screaming to the top of her lungs. I'm from a lot of church too.
I grew up with a lot of women, a lot of strong women.
I go like no mad times where like mom's just doing mad drugs and I'm just like figuring out what I'm gonna eat at night. Figuring out like I'm gonna get this money, all this, so many crazy things.
My mom was on drugs, so it was very hard for us to like get by. I was in foster homes. I was struggling, you know. I couldn't see a future. I couldn't see the next day.
One of the major things that happened that shaped me is my dad being in jail for 25 years. Like my dad was there, but he wasn't physically there. I felt ashamed just to say like, my dad is in jail. Like my dad is looked at as a criminal, not only in my eyes because that's how society made it, but also in your eyes because that's all that we're taught.
Way before I was even born, 3 months in my mom's stomach, my pops ended up going to prison. One thing special about my mom that I love is that she always kept me involved in my father's life. And one thing I love about my pops is that he always stayed in my life during his whole time inside prison. I knew my pops, you know, like I loved my pops, I loved him. And we used to always have these dreams of him coming home and us playing basketball against each other because he was big in basketball.
My mom was like one parent, but also like she wasn't balling because like she was an immigrant too. I was just like going with the flow, like being the only kid that wear jean units when everybody wearing Air Forces. Just like carrying that like all through my life.
My mom inspires me. She just be holding it down. Like a Martin Luther King or like Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, like how the world see those people, like that's how I see her.
I didn't have a good childhood either. Like my parents were drug addicts. I wanted to be in a foster care system. We was all separated in between systems from here to Jersey to Boston. I got back to my mother's custody at the age of 12. Around that time, I was gangbanging in group homes. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like, it's a void. Like, this is my mom, but we don't have no connection now. I was in school for alternative school because I had behavior problems. Everybody in that school was on the way to prison, either on probation or on parole. So that school alone was just summing you up for you, send you away. They had timeout rooms that had pads in there. One time a kid got left in the timeout room overnight. There's some teachers that really like cared about me. And some teachers like, yo, that nigga's an animal. Like, he's really an animal.
Going to like a charter school where it was just strict and nothing but academics. I remember in middle school, they tried to say I was crazy. And I'm a kid, like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, like whatever I'm doing is like whatever, it's just normal to me type shit. But to them it's like, oh, there's something wrong with me type shit. Like when you was in charter school, anything can get you in trouble. You breathe wrong, you gonna get in trouble. We got so much shit going on at home. You don't think we got mad shit going on at home? And we don't even have the space to speak on this stuff?
When I was going to school, my behavior started acting up. At the same time, I was crying out for help because I was missing my father. People didn't pay mind to what was going on with me. And I realized that when we talk about H.O.L.L.A and when we set the blueprint for H.O.L.L.A, these were some of the things we looked at. Child who was being ignored, that child who was going through a whole bunch of stuff, people was overlooking them, and they really had some issues. They really wanted to be loved, you know.
I'm on that shit too. Reside in places other people gone through shit too. Well, grandma, uncle, sister, cousins flip that brick too. Or maybe have to, cause the will to survive is sick too. Plague of the 80s, mama even smoked that shit too. Had her whole life to heal from, I know she ain't meant to. I 5% the queen with focus paying rent too. Right for your rollie while you riding in your rent too. Just so those babies could get checkups for they dental. This street shit meant to, cause nobody out here in these streets to defend you.
Although there was no drugs that were in my household, we walk outside and it was everything that you can imagine. People using, selling, shooting others. All that happened like in my building, outside the building, so I grew up around that.
You just sleep, you hearing gunshots, or you were into building, you see blood on the floor, and you just like, yo, where's all this coming from? This is crazy.
Especially like for somebody who been like banging in the streets, and like it's like mad times like I can recall like where like I almost got shot, or like mad times where like I know like damn I shouldn't have been here.
I was in the streets too. You know, I held guns too. You know, I kicked doors in too. I sold drugs. I did all that. You living in a war-torn neighborhood where you gotta like fight for food. You're like scraping up like how you gonna eat, how you gonna dress, how you gonna, you know. So coming from that lifestyle of like kind of like being a soldier. You know, I was like 18 when I went inside. So I recognized that like I was young and I was being manipulated, and I recognized that. But the people that were manipulating me, they was manipulated themselves. So this was like learned behavior that was just being like passed down.
We come from our home school, we come from our school, then we come from the street school, right? And all these different schools teaches us. Whatever has most control over us, this is the one that we adapt to more. So most of us that been inside prison, we really like, the street school like took over, right? And it made us smart on some street smart stuff, but that also created a lane that we end up finding ourselves inside prison, right?
Just understand like my pops was in that place inside prison, and I always said I never wanted to be there. But growing up in the projects, just a lot of things was going on, a lot of things was happening, and I was just like a part of it, you know. I used to run with crews and stuff like that. I ended up turning into a gang member at 15 years old, and a lot of times I made some good choices, and a lot of times I made some choices that really affected me growing up, affected my family growing up.
As a teenager that's rebelling, but also seeking ways to understand his own trauma or avoid it, I should probably say, avoid dealing with it. I ended up going out into the streets and seeking some of these things and being involved with some of those things, those activities that was going on outside my apartment. And it led me to jail at 19 years old.
The actions and the thoughts that I had worked in that circumstances. I did things, I strategized, I lived life based on that reality. I played life in those games. That's why I was in what I was in.
Turn up. I always knew that I'd find a way. I need the money like right away. Deep in the trenches, plot like extensions, flooding the streets like a tidal wave. All of the shit that we seen, and all of the shit in between. Watching our families turning to fiends, and we on the block still serving the fiends. Cause money was low, it's all that we know. Pitch it and go. Got to the top, no advances, cut out the cancer. Now I got ice like a Atlantis. I had to go beat the odds. I sleep in the car, but I gotta get mommy a mansion, yeah. Big Tony, bring the bands in, yeah. 10 chains, diamond dancing, Soon as I hit the light, got it down for the night. I was fly before the flight, sit calm for the night. Sit back, enjoy your life, yeah. I can remember the times I lost my heart to the grind, yeah. Try to get right on the squad and you gon' get hit with a bomb, yeah. All of this money and violence, I had to go form an alliance with some of the flies. Think we playing, come and try it, staying ready for a riot, whoa.
When I was like 15, 16, like I was on my own. And I just started trying to figure out how to survive. It started like I asked somebody to give me some drugs, and I started selling drugs. I saved that money. I bought my own drugs. I kind of like landed in a space where like I was like in the game, and I was getting deep in the game, but like I was taking care of myself now. As I was getting deeper in the game, it came with like more stake and more pride and more ego and more street politics. And one of the things that I got into is what led me into prison. My moms came to visit me and started crying the whole visit, the whole hour and 20 minutes. But when she seen her son like involved in killing another black person and was potentially be in prison forever, like it hit home for her, and she was like devastated. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in prison. I've been called a criminal, I've been called a drug dealer, I've been called a murderer. Yeah, I've been called somebody you should throw away. When I really felt like, oh shit, it's here, it was in prison, but it was because all of those experiences too added up. That when I got there, it was like, this is it. You know, you're so close to death, near the fire of structural violence. The complexity and the facades that systems of oppression usually put on are not there. When you're in those cages, you are really close to dehumanization, to death. This is chattel slavery at its new iteration.
You know, I'm just going through like the different things that come with being young at 22 years old in a prison full of adults and young people and everything. Prison was getting beat up by officers and stuff like that. A lot of stuff like that going on.
Being sentenced at 17, I had to do a 5-year sentence. Being in solitary confinement for 2 years at a time.
I was incarcerated as a juvenile from 15 to right before 18, and then I was incarcerated from 20 to about 24. I've seen corruption, racism, separation, torture, all of the pain, the trauma, the suffering. It was an assault to your mental capacity to the point where your just hope is being crushed.
It shocked me in a way that like, and I was locked up for my involvement in a homicide for taking life too. And I live with that, and I continue to live with the fact that like I was involved and I've been manipulated and I've been harmed by systems of oppression, by historical trauma, and the fact that I was, like, not only have I enacted many acts of violence on people that I love, people that I see as me, I was part of like taking somebody's life that is like me. I'm wrestling with that. I'm wrestling with the fact that this system is trying to take my life. I'm wrestling with the fact that so many other lives are being snatched away. It humbled me. Going through that fire put like a certain kind of humbleness on me that grounded me in my humanity to really want to understand what I'm experiencing, what it means to go through this.
Many of us, you know, doing time in prison had to undergo a lot of soul searching. We really had to dig deep, and we had to do some purging, reflecting on your past and, you know, just drawing on those memories and experiencing the pain.
And through that process, I started to read more, I started to learn more, I started to want to be connected with folks. I started asking different questions to my moms, to my sister, started asking different questions to myself. That process really revealed different parts of myself that really shifted how I engage with myself and how I engage with the world, which started shifting how the world engaged with me.
I elevate self to a higher level in the belly of the beast, land of the devils. Give me a shovel, cause I'ma rewrite the law and give myself a time cut on the cell floor. Cause I got chains on my arms, I got chains on my feet. They say, lock him down for the words he speaks. So in the 4x4 cell is where I dwell. But it's a long place from the place called hell, so I excel. A voice from the wilderness, but alive in the belly of the beast. Peace.
People often ask me, like, what put you to jail? What got you to jail? And there's an instant offense, no question, no doubt, that I was arrested for. But the deeper thing is that, like, I began to understand, like, what got me there in the first place. Like, what got me in that mind space. Nobody's child, baby, infant, or toddler is born to be going to jail, right? Nobody thinks of the baby and says, oh, look at her, she's so cute, you're gonna go to jail. No one does that, right? But there's things that happens to that person, and oftentimes they're not aware it's happening to them.
Well, Ever since I was say about like 12 or 13 years old, you know, growing up in Brooklyn, I would see youth of color especially being targeted, being stopped and frisked for no reason, or being assaulted by police officers. It's a regular thing, you know, you see somebody getting shot in front of you, you see somebody getting stabbed, you see a youth of color being assaulted by a white officer, you know, these are things, if you see them on a regular basis, this is nothing new to you, you're numb to it, it's okay, it's natural.
When I was like 25, I was really angry that I've been bamboozled. Like I grew up through mad, fucked up shit, like systems of oppression. Like I was living that shit really every day. And like I was punishing the people who was making me live through it, who I love, for doing that shit. It was your fault, you was fucked up. And I was being treated the same way by other people because they thought I was fucked up. I got stopped by police 10 times a day. I thought that was normal. When I went to the schools that I went to and the way they looked, I thought that was regular. Like my block, with people selling drugs and like the liquor store, like not having a passport was regular. Like we didn't talk about college. We didn't talk about passports. Those things wasn't part of like the experience. It's deep, deep trauma in that because there's mad blocks and limits to what you can see and who you think you could be. And there's false understandings of why you feel the way you feel. I looked at my mom's. She's on drugs. It's her fault. I thought white people did the right thing. They was better producers of what you need to be to do the right thing. And I thought the people in my neighborhood just were not good producers of that. We just wasn't that good at it. Like I didn't have language for it, like it just made sense. I knew we went to certain restaurants, like it's mostly white people and we had to like act a certain way. That usually meant like you're not acting hood. And hood is usually meant like something that's lower. I knew in the hierarchy, like when I was saying that one is lower and one is higher.
In this society, to be an American means something specific. So much of you that you brought here, if you're an immigrant or if you're like different, has to be cut off, has to be uprooted.
Be white, like yeah, the whiter you are and act and sound, the better.
Very first thing that happens to me when I was in school was being bullied because I was different. Oh, you should not say this because you're not from here. You don't understand us. You're from somewhere else. I'm undocumented. I can't move because the chains is right here. It's like I'm locked. I'm like, I can't move.
I grew up in like a rich white neighborhood. My high school was like very wealthy, private prep school. I really like knew that I was different and I was just trying to forget that I was different. I wanted to be lighter skinned because the people around me who were the most popular, who were the most privileged, they were lighter skinned. That whole notion of like the lighter skin, the better is also in India and it's in my home too. All of these traits I like hated. Like I thought that I was like too dark, too hairy, too short, and I was trying to just detach myself and I was seeing it as something so negative.
I started to understand like how gender and how sexuality and how race and how language and how religion and all these different things plays a different role in how you're going to be oppressed.
Systematic oppression is all around us, in schools, in institutions, it's at your workplace, it's at home.
We just all want to fit in, so like, when everybody's doing it, your brain just programs itself to like be a part of that.
Like historical oppression and trauma is a lot to make sense of. And it's coded, and it's enacted by you and imposed on you. And it's tricky and it maneuvers. Even when you think you know something, you gotta understand of it, you really don't.
When I look at history, I see how European people went into like indigenous lands and try to like push their ideologies and their views. People influencing us how we should think, how we should speak, how we should dress, how we should do things. And they colonized the world. You know, this continue in our school system. You know, the bad education, the false history. We need to heal from like, you know, being indoctrinated. You're young, you can't really analyze it, so you're just like accepting the information. You're just being soaked. And when we justify what's happening to certain people, when we justify wars, when we justify invasions, this is what we're being taught in school. And then you're gonna reproduce the system that we built because we taught you how to reproduce it. Till you go somewhere and you realize like, man, like these people have been lying to me this whole time.
To know the truth of how this world works, how history is laid out, how my people is looked at, then you start to realize, dang, like how real deep it is.
The infrastructure of a hierarchical system, in order for that to thrive, something has to be on the bottom. We're on the bottom. That has been the basis of it. There is a systematic design that is in play from the where we live and red codes to the lack of knowledge to being disconnected from our ancestral spirituality, our ancestral tongue, our ancestral medicine, and history forced down our throats that is quite frankly not even true. So having that set up in such a way, you might think in your everyday that you walk to that man to get your pack, to flip your bundle, you had some choices, you had some options, you had some agency, but really you're just following for a preordained script, and that's the fucking problem. The problem is it's a script and we don't know we're actors and we're all playing these parts. You know what I'm saying? And tragedy comes out of that shit. And I want to monologue Jesus. Right.
From large fields that we used to harvest and bring life to fields that, you know, we were forced to like harvest and take life from us.
Humans can easily do the most harm to someone when that someone is a thing. We built this country, but yet we were always a thing. That we were monstrous, ugly, morbid creatures. And it was evident in chattel enslavement, then it became reshaped and evident in chain gangs and Jim Crow and mass incarceration. It's just reshaped itself with the same goal, which was to continue to dehumanize people of color. We weren't able to breathe. We weren't able to think. We weren't able to love. We wasn't able to be human beings. We were stripped of everything, like even down to our name. On so many different levels, the humanity is removed. But we have this innate, beautiful ability to take the most atrocious things about that was thrown at us and make it something powerful.
In prison, there was a lot of older brothers. Sometimes people be like, oh, you need to read this book. Like Tookie Williams' book, Assata Shakur's. So that was kind of like my process of like educating myself.
So I learned about the Black Panther Party, the BLA, the Black Liberation Army. I learned about Assata Shakur, Angela Davis, you know, Huey P. Newton, all these great people. Just learning that black love and stuff like that, just love for self and love for our people and love for our history and like our ancestral background.
At one point in my life, I didn't want to be African. That was a deeply stigmatized identity that like, I was ready to punch somebody in the face if you said that was me. That's how shameful that was. That's how shameful it was to be black. I've been really, last couple of years, really trying to like figure out what it means to be accountable to my ancestors and what it means to uplift my ancestors and what it means to stand on the shoulders of my ancestors and my elders. Like I really leaned into like what it means to be indigenous. Like how do African people come to this country? Like I really leaned into like that identity of being black. Like when I came out of that, I was able to like respond to like the world in a different way. Like not saying that I still don't have to negotiate being black or being African in the world that I live in, but like within my own body, it's a different negotiation. I actually run to it in my own body, and in a lot of ways I used to run away from it.
For me, like learning about like all of our ancestors that pretty much put their life on the line for we could be right here. If it wasn't for them, like having that strength to keep going when things didn't look like promising, they gave their life for this, you know? It just told me that, yo, you gotta look at your people way better than what you have in the past. Paying homage, like my duty is to help my community, build my community. To take on that energy and stuff from my ancestors and like really bring it back to like to where we at right now.
Understanding like that those were my people, they never like were subdued, you know, they kept fighting.
Learning about it fired the light inside of me. It just sparked this movement in me. Like, I felt like I had to say something because why sit here and take this when I know I deserve better?
You never tell me because I'm black I can't belong somewhere. You're not gonna tell me that because I'm too hood I can't go to university. My hoodness is me. It's who I chose to be. My ancestors, who came before me, tells me I belong here.
We talking about indigeneity without no regulation. Culture is our education. Emotional communication. Vulnerability is what we embrace. This is for our ancestors. Particularly the ones that love you when they don't got to. But love you because they got you. This is for our ancestors. Particularly the ones that stand with us and plan with us. We talking about a pedagogy of patience. They still looking for your transformation. And for us to heal from all the steel waving. And generation after generation, of living out the plantation. That was for our ancestors. People stand up. People stand up. People stand up. We stand on legacy, 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 legacy.
We gon' rise to the mountain high. Ain't nobody gonna stop us.
My people stand up.
Unify together, got that power.
My people stand up.
Unify together, got that power.
Bobby Field is going through all types of physical and mental torture. But that's all right, because we said even before this happened, and we're going to say it after this, and after I'm locked up, and after everybody's locked up, that you can jail revolutionaries, but you can't jail a revolution. Right.
You think about it like, yo, how the fuck do I heal from this? You got mass incarceration, oppression, racism. You gotta find some type of system to grab and heal from it, because if you don't, shit's really gonna fuck you up. It's gonna fuck you up bad too.
So many of us got wounds. Physical wounds are one thing, but also there's generational wounds. There are wounds inflicted by institutions that we've had to interact with, that our parents have, that our foreparents have. And not all of us are conscious of like we're wounded. And you may have been moving based on this wound that you weren't even conscious of. And then once we become conscious that we're somewhat wounded by it, what do we do? What do we do now?
Everybody that I know has gone through deep harm and has deep wounds that are being ignored. Those deep wounds that are being ignored is causing problems and has been causing a lot of deep conflict.
A lot of times, people that hurt others. That harm that we caused our neighborhood is something, the same harm that's hurting them within us as well.
All my homies when I was younger are 6 feet under. And I'm tired of seeing black and brown teen getting killed by guns. And I'm sick and tired of that shit. We kill each other because we've been harmed by the systems. You have been harmed in so many ways. You're not realizing you're causing harm to other people because you've been harmed. And that's why healing justice is very important, because you have to heal from the system that harms you.
To get to that more just place, we need to be healed so that we don't recreate the same wounds that we've experienced or inflicted. We have to prioritize healing.
I think when we talk about oppression, we never talk about healing. We don't talk about what happens when the oppressor leaves. You know, like how do we deal with like the trauma that is left behind after like whatever the policies might change or the rules and the regulations might change out there in society and our external version. But at the same time, like the internal part of us is like still suffering from like the wounds that were inflicted. We've seen this around the world in like countries that were colonized. The trauma, the scarring, and the people that gain power back, they start reproducing what was imposed upon them. You know, like we see Haiti, for example, like, yeah, they became like the first, you know, black people to liberate themselves, but then the dictators came and they was oppressing their own people. So we seen like the pattern. How do you get past that? How do you recover from like the wounds that were inflicted? Those are like deep aspects of like justice.
Generational trauma, like a lot of oppression that's been put on our people for centuries, is built in our culture.
Structural historical violence is mostly facilitated by like the people you love the most, interpersonal relationships and the people in your neighborhood. So a lot of those people echo the sentiments of the world.
He's a black guy wearing do-rag and snapback, he's savage, or he gonna rob you, or he's violent.
So when you hear that you're lazy, you're a piece of shit, that you're always stealing, while that represents like a larger narrative about your community, about your people, it also represents like words that come from people you see every day. That's hard to like map, that's not you. How that's not me? My mom's is calling me that, my cousin is saying that, the people in my neighborhood, the older people who walk in the building, they see me as this thug.
We're so accustomed to this structure that we've been growing up into. Who's to say once the revolution happened that we won't replicate it, right? We had to really like tap into self to really get an understanding that we holding on to a lot of these values that we say we don't want. We holding on to them.
A lot of the wounds we have is deeply about relationship separation with yourself, with others, with the land, with culture, with spirit. How do those wounds stop me from being human? Stop me from like laughing? Like when do I feel like, damn, like I know that's true about me, but I know I just don't want to say it about myself because the wounds are so real.
We don't change society, we don't change institutions, we don't change practices unless we start at these 3 levels. And the first level is healing ourselves.
Because you ain't got to be locked up to be in prison. A lot of our people right now are in prisons of their mind, in prisons of their heart, in prisons of dealing with all the internalized stuff that has been forced and pushed on us for generations. They keep us divided, they keep us confused, and they would like to keep us fighting amongst ourselves. And once we free the chains here and free the chains here, automatically the chains on this will drop.
But I said we came to heal, which I came to do. I said we came to build. Tell me what y'all came to do. I said we came to fill. What y'all came to do. But if we gotta kill just to make it through, we gonna make sure we make it true. But I said we all came to heal. What they came to do.
Jumping right into deep organizing mode. We are deep in it.
H.O.L.L.A was created inside Real Correctional Facility. Me and a few brothers, we all got together and we were just building. We all were kind of looking at each other in the same type of light, like, this dude got power and I could tap into that.
When we was in prison, we just started sharing stories about our lives. And we started to see how we was all connected, that our lives linked all together.
The name one of the guys came up with it was H.O.L.L.A, how our lives link all together. And it touched all of us like, yeah, that's it, that's the one.
We was connecting also to some of our ancestors and elders that set the foundation for the Greenhaven think tank. We was watching videos from the Bedford Hill sisters having deep healing circles. And in that process, something powerful was happening. We started to heal.
When we came out of prison, we just started looking for ways to keep building on that energy with our communities.
And that process reconnected us to some of our elders, to the sisters in Bedford Hills, and particularly to Eddie Ellis, who's one of the organizers at the Greenhaven think tank.
And as a part of that, some of us started getting involved with the Center for New Leadership.
There was a stigma that was attached to people who had done time in prison. We were pushed out, locked out, shut out, and never allowed to come back in. So we're not here because people invited us in or opened the door and welcomed us with open arms. We're here because we kicked the door in and demanded that we have a presence where we are. With my colleague Eddie Ellis and I came up with this whole idea about organizing formerly incarcerated people. We could have never imagined There would be professors, there would be licensed attorneys, there would be doctors and social workers, that we'd be moving policy, and that we would author books. I mean, these things at that time were beyond conception. We made a decision at a certain point in history to define ourselves and not be defined by others. So we are people who did time in prison, but we're still people. People on parole, people on probation, people who were convicted, but we're still people. We've never surrendered our humanity, nor will we ever let anyone take it away.
And we started building with the center around this idea of healing. And that's when our youth organizing collective came on board and the healing justice movement was born.
It's a collective movement where we get it black, brown brothers and sisters in a space where they can be comfortable, be free to speak their mind without being judged. Because that's what the system does to us. They separate us, divide us, but we are coming together in H.O.L.L.A to become one in unity.
Speaking the truths of shame, the truths of guilt, the truth of resentment, the stories that we often don't face with our families, bringing those to the forefront in a really productive way. That's about energizing movement.
How our lives link all together. Again, their acronym means how our lives link all together. In honor of your outstanding continuous contribution towards promoting and presenting our culture, we acknowledge your efforts and we salute your dedication towards liberation for our people. We thank you, the African community. Thank you very much.
So we're gonna somebody gave us some feedback, so we're gonna look at it, read the feedback, and then have a conversation about what we think should be the new version.
I was saying that's just for that. That's different though. That's different language because you telling them let's call it that, but we doing healing. It's basically a different structure we doing.
So
we going vulnerable.
So maybe we tell them, maybe we talk about healing. Maybe the way we talk about healing is about going deep
Never
inside
run,
yourself
just
and going deep inside the people that you care about.
Yeah.
So maybe the first step is like,
remember that we all have healing to do.
So remember that we all got healing to do. So that's
Yeah,
dope. That's good.
one.
So back. So remember, damn man, that's what's up.
Don't forget that we all have healing to do. So get ready to get vulnerable.
I like the vulnerable. Vulnerable feels like the second step.
Yeah, it do.
How do you ask somebody or challenge somebody to prepare themselves to go get vulnerable?
That's why I said it in the first one.
I know. All of our survival and all of our healing and all of our wellness is predicated on how well we can create space.
Because we're about to go deep. We're about to ask each other deep questions, go deep into our honest answers, our personal stories, our identity, and I don't know you guys don't know me, so what do we need to make this space safe for us to be able to open up.
Creating multiple spaces in different places to dive into ritual, to unplug from the capitalism, from hyperproductivity, from the norms of separation, from the running of vulnerability, the further pushing away of shame.
Giving the community a chance and an opportunity to come in and open up about the trauma that's inflicted on us personally and the trauma that's inflicted on the community as a whole.
Whether it's with people who are from our hood or people who are from Columbia University, we challenge people's assumptions that pushes them to be more human, that opens up more humanity into them, that makes them curious about other parts of themselves. When we ask who are you, that's I'm black, I'm Corey, I'm 35, and that is true. But also, but the energy, the suggestion that we're throwing into the room is that you integrate who you are, and that we use this open space to do that.
So A is asking B, who do you pretend to be? And we could start now. Who do you pretend to be?
I pretend to be happy with a lot of my family situations in certain moments because pretending feels like the best thing to keep us going. in those moments. And to be real would be just too painful for not only for myself, but for everybody. Yeah, I'm working to gain my courage not to pretend to be that, not to put that mask on anymore.
Like, you think that you've gotten away from so many things, but then when you ask yourself that question, and it's like, wow, maybe I'm still pretending about certain things and didn't even realize it, you know? So that was just very dope. I really appreciate that.
It raised a lot of questions like, who am I? Like, what do people think I am? Who people think I am? When you're not true to yourself, you are somebody else. Just using what people say about you and you're just like, oh yeah, this is what it means. Who gets to choose who I am is me. If I don't do it, society will portray me into something else that I'm not.
When we go vulnerable, when we talk about who you are and what you pretend to be, and we have, like we always have conversations with ourselves, but those conversations be what? Questions that we don't usually ask ourselves? Questions that we don't ask ourselves a lot?
Yeah, like.
How will we frame those kind of questions? Like, because they feel different to me. Like, when we be going into them, like, they be like, damn, why haven't I asked, like, why I don't think about, like, when it's hard to build relationships with my moms? Like, when we ask those questions, those are like questions that we like always think about, but when we go into them, like, where are we going when we go there? That's what I'm trying to ask.
Every time when we ask those questions, we hit them where it, like, where it's hurting, where they need to heal.
Oh, bet. So we're really having conversations with ourselves in places where it hurt. Where guilt is at, where shame is at, where they hurt people at. Because some of the stuff that we say, particularly when we get vulnerable and we get deep and we get graphic and we be intentional, those pictures, those experiences, they remind us of our own experiences. They remind us of stuff that we've seen before, stuff that we went through, stuff that we lived, and we go there. And it's hard to like keep our spirits open, let it land on your soul, and try to keep your soul open to hear.
I'm here today to really, not to go off topic, but I'm here today to really share my feelings with y'all, to share my experience with y'all. Because at a young age, I didn't expect to do or see the things that I was exposed to. Because you could imagine, I came from Haiti when I was 8 years old. And when I came to Brooklyn, I grew up with my grandmother. Mother and father was never around. Father doing double life behind jail, mom's somewhere else. So it's hard growing up. And for me to be here today actually is a real blessing that I get to share this experience with y'all. And I'm happy for y'all to share experience with me as well.
When I got shot, and my daughter, she was only 4 years old, so it's like I never got to really put her on the school bus when she was hurt. Stuff like that. You know? Like he said, not being able to do things you want to do with them. That's it.
You know, I did things I'm not too proud of, you know what I mean? But it was just like, I grew up in a tough neighborhood. It was crazy. It's like, you know, and things happen. And, you know, but I'm alive. I got shot when I was young, 22. Got shot 7 times. I was 3 hours in the floor for the ambulance game.
It took me 7 years to come around. For 7 years, I was just out of it. I forgot to also mention I was facing a lot of time. And I did a lot of time. I did 32 years. So doing it in this position was like kind of rough because they expected you to perform like an able-bodied person. And you had to do what you had to do, or you ain't eat, or you ain't get what you needed to get to survive and stuff. So you learned. But thank you for being with me, and thank you for not coming down on me for not sharing earlier.
Like these connections that we have, like speaks to the whole like mantra, holla and everything, but like how our lives link all together. Like you keep discovering it over and over and over and over again.
I've been through mad healing circles. Family ones, the community ones. You can't have those circles without vulnerability. That's like the main ingredient.
Part of the healing is like All of us know that in some spiritual way and in some material way that we all scared and that it's hard for our humanity to be seen.
I had like a invisible wall. Once it gets to some deep shit, it's stopping. I remember Corey saying like, we're gonna love each other and stuff like that. I'm like, love? I don't even tell my sisters I love them. Like, so you expect me to love y'all? Like, no.
You have to break down the barriers of like, I don't want you in my business. Like, you know, do I really want to tell you I don't know if I was going to eat tonight? Like, are those things that I want to share with you? Can I depend on you to hold that? Can you really hold that space for me?
It'd just be hard to like be myself and say the things I want to say to people I love.
Most of these places that you go, you have to act a certain way, look a certain way, come a certain way. There's an expectation.
I don't think the system we live in allows it to be okay to be honest, because there's always a punishment. There's always a consequence for that. You cannot be real. But let's just share space in an honest way.
You know, I've come in and like folks are high and in high spirits, and I've come in and folks are just like, I'm here, I made it, and that's about as much you're gonna get from me. But that's real, right? And so it offers you a space to be human.
We show up in ways that like let you know that it's cool to be, not to be finished yet. Not to be complete, not to be perfect.
We build that trust and that bond, so this is family building.
You can be yourself. You won't be judged. When I introduce myself, I can say I'm formerly incarcerated. I don't have to hide, you know, and I think that's a big part of healing, knowing that you can be yourself in the space that you're in.
It's like, come here and be who you are, whatever you are, wherever you are. And I think that that's the most important factor on the journey of healing.
Like, it showed me like, you know, you could be who you really are and still be seen, and not like as something that's like a disgrace or like something that's like don't belong.
Have you ever heard yourself talk, but you never think that people listen to you?
Yeah.
That shit is deep. Like you actually saying something, and that person's actually listening to you. It's like a mirror, but he's actually right there physically. It's like you want to be heard so much, then now you get the attention to be heard. It's a different environment.
Young wild child, looking like a nigga with my knees scraped. Be great, what my mama said when I had lost faith. Ultra lonely with a big mouth, and my biggest sister's baby bro, he had a temper. Wish that all our lives were simpler. Don't trip by Phoenix like my niece name. Never let the deep pain consume me in the room of doom, I peep game. Now I'm in full bloom, new moons and I see the stars. Never thought I'd make it far, living my whole life with scars.
She a story, I'll hold the space for you to share your story. I'm listening, I'll take it and I'll take it and I'm listening, I'll hold the space for you to share your story.
Living my whole life with scars.
I heal two ways. I heal like through personal stories. I heal through hearing people's personal stories. We don't do this enough, like these circles and talking about like what we've been through and really listening.
When someone is really listening to you, they're giving you that eye contact, looking you in your eye and listen to what you gotta say, and they're not judging you on it, that feeling you leave out of there after you get everything off your chest, the feeling you leave out is like, wow, wow.
It's scary. I'm tell you what, the first day I walked in this door, I wouldn't even freaking smile. I smile all day now, I laugh and joke all day. You embrace your vulnerability and just like, fuck it is what it is. What we gonna do next?
Every time I come here, I feel like this is the best space to unpack something.
It's just like, it'd be like a warm pit in your stomach, and then like when you really let that shit out, that shit be feeling so fucking good. Like it's like a weight was just lift off your shoulders.
Sometimes there's part of me that I don't want to open up about. There's things I haven't confronted in myself. Sometimes it be those fears or traumas that I end up talking about, and it's like a big burden. It's released.
You don't really know that the negative energy is there until like you feel it release.
Came here, learned about different stories and all that, journeys, and then I was just like, damn, our humanity is like, it's like so fragile.
we have to identify with our humanity and understand it is okay to be hurt. And I think that if we validated those feelings, we would be better human beings to one another.
I fear being incarcerated. I fear prison. I fear the system. If there's trauma, you know, it's gonna be dealt with. It's not gonna just be looked past. It's not gonna be like the Khalif Browder story where, you know, you sit on Rikers Island for 3 years and then you come home and then 2 years later, you know, you commit suicide because of trauma and because of healing that never happened.
Like whatever anger, sad, depression, it's like, it's all real to me as much as happiness.
At some point, I was like really suicidal. Like, word, I didn't even want to be here. Like, and I feel like if I didn't join H.O.L.L.A, I think that would have been the route I'd have took. In a way, so it was like H.O.L.L.A was kind of like an angel to me, cause like it definitely took me out of a dark place. I don't think I would even be able to like talk about my pain. I gained a heart in a way, but slowly starting to like unfreeze my heart, my cold heart.
Most of us are not giving these stories up because we all trying to like not get pushed out. You know, it's like, oh shit, if you telling this, it's gonna push you away. But the actual flip side of vulnerability is that like when you lean into vulnerability, it brings a different kind of like gift to the dynamic, to the relationship.
You learn a lot about people when you learn that a lot of people have been through similar things as you, or they've had some sort of trauma that you connect to.
You know, your mom was struggling just like mine. Like your mom was on welfare just like mine. Like, you know, your father left just like mine. I think it creates this comfortability to like really like express yourself and really like to tear down those walls that we automatically have because we've been like used and abused and mistreated. When you speak the truth and you like become vulnerable with your brothers, it allows them to become vulnerable too, and it allows you guys to like actually become closer.
You know, that's my bro. We build a relationship, we build a bond, we build a friendship to where when we need each other the most, we gonna be there for each other the most. Where my boys go through struggles and I go through struggles, we go through struggles together.
You know, you can vent, I can listen, you know, we can go back and forth and we can create this space of healing together because that's the only way we're gonna do it is if we do it together.
There's healing and a beauty in not being fearful of your wounds in community with other people. Working past certain fears of who you are. And you're doing that in community where people are seeing you struggle through that. That opens up possibilities.
The more and more we connect with more people that's going through the same things with each other, at first it's like a lot of nervousness because we don't know each other, we don't trust each other, we're not really building with each other, and we're not probably from the same neighborhoods. But then when we realize that as we continue to throw them rocks and continue to build on each other, we see that we're going through the same type of things and everything. And that rock become way easier. But when we're not throwing rock, we actually throwing knowledge, we're throwing like this build, we're throwing like a family, and we're throwing like real coverage to really want to make things change inside of our hood, right? Okay. So something Lauren just said, I'm really big on like talking about the stuff that we do to each other to keep away from each other. And I think like that's what we need to just continue to build on. I appreciate being here. I think there's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about in like our formerly incarcerated movement that I feel like Y.O.C. and like our healing justice movement is creating a space for us to go deeper in. Some of the shame, some of the guilt, some of the tensions between formerly incarcerated people, between us and the movement that we don't really get a chance to discuss. Most humanity has a lot of shame in it. Most humanity is filled with guilt. All humanity is unfinished. So that's just like a regular thing, whether people are fronting or not. I struggle with being honest with myself sometimes about like who I am and like the things that I've caused, the harm I caused on other folks, particularly people I love. Like my wife I'm separated with, my son, my mom's, like my little sister. I don't throw that struggle out there as like it's just a struggle. That's like also my motivation too. I had a lot of experimental examples of when I said, I'm not gonna run from that. I'm actually gonna be honest. I'm saying I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm gonna say my mom's is impacted by crack.
I think it's a lot of healing and understanding who I am and understanding where I come from and understanding the struggles that got me to where I'm at today. And it's a lot of healing and like being confident in those pains and leaning into that shame. And when I lean into that shame of like, yo, my mom's a drug addict, or my mom's impacted by crack. And when I lean into that shame turns into something else. It turns into power, it turns into fuel, turns into different kind of energy. And when you are able to do that in a way that's confident, in a way that's about who you are, that doesn't remove your humanity or your beauty, it actually teaches people that it's okay to do that, and it gives them permission to lean more into like the things that they are scared to bring to the surface. It's another place in our humanity that we can connect with, that the world that we lived in often tell us like that's not a place for us to connect. You should hide from that. You give spirit. This is my humanity, this is who I am. The spirit is gonna find its way out. You know, the spirit is always trying to get out, always trying to connect. It's like a domino effect. And sometimes people just be like appreciative that somebody shared some shame with them. When you know that everybody's protecting their shame, you can almost understand that that's a gift. I'm allowing you to walk with me in this wound.
I think I struggle most of my healing is in intimate relationships. I think that's like what I struggle the most. It's easier to publicly love than it is to privately love. So I think I struggle with that.
You know, I'm bisexual. I came out 2017. My mom, she don't look at me. Like, she literally can't look at me. Like, say if I'm walking in the hallway, she wouldn't even like come out her room. She would stop. It's like definitely painful, but like, there's nothing I could do about it. I just try to find a way to understand her. Like, a lot of her childhood past, we don't know nothing about. I'm like starting to like understand like, okay, it's probably deeper than us. I'm not gonna pay you no mind because I know it's deeper than what it is. Just trying to understand like her pain to get over my pain.
When I was a young girl, I used to be like stepped all over in a gendered way. And it took a lot for me to stand up for myself. It took a lot for me to be who I am today, and for me to like stop and now reflect, and when you do something that hurts me, I have to like not blame you, and I have to like look at myself and ask myself why I'm feeling uncomfortable. Like, that's really hard for me to do because I'm like, I'm not trying to go back to when I was like 12, but it's not going back to where I'm 12. I'm going forward to something else.
It keeps on going around and keeps on coming back. Like, you can't have an understanding of yourself without understanding somebody else. How you come together and reaching that understanding, knowing that people are different and people come from different places.
Everybody have a deep story, everybody have a deep mentality, but it's up to you to ask the right questions and to understand who that person is.
What was going on in that person, what affected them, what kind of impact it had on them to make the decisions that they made. But not to sugarcoat it, not to undermine it.
To understand that the men in my life have their own trauma, and that the women in my life have trauma too, and honestly, we are both perpetuating it together. Discovering that collectively through personal stories, that's very healing for me. I think the little personal stories that are not supposed to be said and not supposed to be honored, we need to be doing that radically, and every single time people are speaking how they feel.
Tension and conflict is critical for love and for life. And I don't know if freedom or liberation means tension-free or conflict-free. But if it does, then that's not where I'm aiming for either, you know. But I'm aiming for like a spiritual balance and a spiritual connection of understanding and empathy that is always with the tension, that is always with our humanity, that pushes our humanity forward, that questions our humanity, that makes us ask more questions about ourselves. When I look back, I just see a long history of fucked up shit. Like, when I look back at my mom's, like, I just see like, I see histories of like a maze of fucked upness that like doesn't seem like how we can get out of it. I used to have mad resentment towards my mom, so I started to tell my moms more about this. I got to express a lot more to her, and she got to listen, and she expressed stuff to me. part of the reason why I went to tell her that like she hurted me, because I started to think like that's gonna be really important for her to know. And I want her to like know that like I still love her despite that. That I feel like, yeah, you could have been better, but also like I wouldn't like trade you for nobody else. Like I want her to know both of those things at the same time. We also at a place right now where we know who we've been to each other, like has caused each other a lot of harm. But it's underscored by like, despite who you've been or how the world has like beat you up, I really just think you dope. Like I'm really like your fan. To love that person, to see like the beauty in them, despite all of that, and really mean that, it's just beautiful.
This white supremacist environment that we live in damages our relationships. At the interpersonal level, how are we healing how we relate to one another? How are we allowing our humanity and love to show up? We need to shift from transactional relationships to transformative relationships. And transformative relationships are the kind of relationships that allow me to be more human. It allows me to be more vulnerable. It allows me to my humanity to show up. And guess what? When my humanity shows up, it gives permission for others to do the same. And as we engage in transformative relationships, we begin to change our communities and change our institutions.
Healing is about your consciousness raising to a level where you can see the humanity in everyone. We can touch each other, we can communicate with each other, we can share with each other, we can love each other, and we can support each other in ways that we never even dreamed of before.
Yo, so hard and it's killing all. What you wanna do?
I think like I struggle the most with healing, like when Corey said, like when you just see that like huge past of like mad trauma. I'm trying to learn how to look at that past as like levels to motivate your future in mad ways. But just to know like right now where I'm at, it's just like looking at that trauma as like, dang, like it's not only me, it's like everybody mother in the 90s was on crack. Everybody grandmother from like had to struggle and had to take care of their grandkids. Like, it's just like so many things that like level up to like just so much destruction in our humanity, which hurts, you know? So yeah.
The reason why I bring that up is to say that appreciate what I have. Don't take it for granted. You're right there, I'm watching you playing with your fingers and stuff. I wish I could do that, brother. I'm looking at you and I really wish you would not imagine how it hurts just not to be able to do that. But I don't dwell on the negativity and not being able to do that. I try to dwell on the things that I'm able to do.
Like, what I learned in this chair, like life skills and how you don't need your functions to do things. You do things with your mind. Your mind is crazy. I'm glad I came here.
Glad you came. All these fucked up shits in the world have been trying to like kill us for mad long, and like look at like these strong brothers trying to tell me like I gotta keep living. You know, like that shit like is very hard for like word. And I think like that's something like, you know, I fight with every day because like I think like you said, like you learning from us, like I'm learning from y'all right now. Like y'all giving me life.
You can't put time on it. It could be physical or invisible. I think it's always energy though. It's truth. I think healing probably is also letting go. You could do all these other pieces within healing, and if you just like not letting go, then you might not ever heal. And I don't think letting go is not holding people accountable for things that happened in the past or things that happen now. I think letting go is for you not to absorb that energy that has created that, so you don't become them like that. So you don't replicate those same processes and those same like ideas and feelings.
What I went through, it was part of my growing up, but it don't make me. The healing is for me recognizing whatever I went through. Don't hold it, don't be angry, don't be mad at the people you think was responsible because I thought my mother made a decision against my father or my father vice versa or whoever. It was what it was, and that was life. My past is all right, but my future is open. So now my journey begins.
How do you release those experiences that you had so that they could be born again? So that you can own them again in a different way?
Always had like these things where I'd be like, think people would be happier if I was dead or something, or people would be more comfortable, like maybe their lives would be much more like less traumatizing or less struggling if I died.
What I do is something that like I never thought in the world when I was younger that I could be doing. And this called out to me and grabbed me and like it helped me and saved me. So many things I'm learning, so many things like my spirit is open up to like be like, yo, this is where you gotta be and this is what you gotta be doing.
I think what changes inside is your concept of self. You learn to love yourself. And when you feel good about yourself, you feel good about others. And when you feel good about others, you're more prone to treat them more delicately, more compassionately, more generously. And that's how we begin to start understanding how our destinies are intricately intertwined.
I don't want this to leave as just, like you said, a one-time thing. I would like to stay connected with y'all and continue to build with y'all, because this is the first for me right here. And I'm feeling this group. It's a very positive group, and I want to keep in contact with y'all and continue to grow as brothers and sisters.
You just need to learn your lesson, A. We were always legends, never peasants. It's a blessing, A. Healing without truth and all our truth, that's how we detonate. Whip it up and then let's get paid. Fight the power and make a change. 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 Whip it up and then let's get paid. Fight the power and make a change. The revolution won't be televised. The revolution won't be televised. We sending shots to the other side. It's you and mine.
It is our duty to win. We must love and care for each other. We have nothing to lose but our chance.
These are practical and pragmatic ways to create better communities.
You know, these is like practices that have been taken from us, that have been snatched away from us, and been replaced by hyperproductivity and distraction and disconnection and capitalism and colonialism.
Justice looks like folks creating for themselves and empowering themselves better spaces, better neighborhoods. In this context, I think H.O.L.L.A is an example of what it looks like. Folks who have been impacted by the system, experience wounds and harm, and now are in a space of healing themselves and others. Literally, I'm not saying this figuratively, like literally healing ourselves and others. That's what justice is.
Every time that you heal, every time that you open up and share a story, every time that you build with someone, every time that we connect with the community, it leads to someone getting justice.
We building with each other, just as young and older, and just meshing all of that together. How we gonna combat the system is through the same thing that we going through each other.
Standing on spirit, speaking of prophecy.
I feel like if we were building the way we were building, the ways social systems and social control works, being controlled in those ways wouldn't be a reality. It wouldn't make sense. It couldn't hold up. Like for black people, for young people, like we're always invisible. This is a way of passing our knowledge down to people come behind us. This is a way of us securing that our stories are represented, blah, blah, blah. The next thing is like, this is also a process of building the movement. As we talk to young people in the Bronx and Queens and Staten Island and Brooklyn, as we build relationships across the city, like we're building a movement.
It feels just beautiful to say that there's a lot of relatives in this circle and in this room to build with, you know what I mean? In our indigenous way, we say, in Lakesh, you are a reflection of me and I'm a reflection of you. We give each other strength, you know what I'm saying? It's reinvigorating. It's like I get energy from being here, and I'm gonna take this energy back to California, back to the Bay, back to our struggle. This movement is gonna spread around the country, and we are going to have a profound impact on seeking joy and justice in all of our lives and our communities. So thank you very much. I'm so glad to be here, y'all.
Respecting and honoring the leadership of our young leaders while pulling on the intergenerational wisdom of all our ancestors. That's about analysis, that's about movement building, And that's about love, it's about compassion, it's about understanding.
It's about a movement to change the mind, man, of a society who rejects us but know how powerful we really are.
This is our truth. This is using that truth to fight for justice, to reimagine justice. Everything that we do, everything that we hold dear within all our truths is how we're gonna fight.
Internally, I'm free. Mentally, I'm free. Emotionally, I'm free. Spiritually, I'm free. But physically, I'm not free. Why is there a chain on my hands and my feet? So my freedom is not done yet. My freedom is coming, and I'm fighting for my freedom because my freedom is beautiful.
We're trying to like create a new world. I mean, this old system has to go.
We was born into a system designed to keep us behind. But knowledge is power, keep that in mind. Pay attention to the road and the signs. You gon' shine, you gon' know when it's time. We was born into oppression, threw us in them jails, waist deep in depression. Art of deception, knowledge is a weapon. They even took that away, it costs for a lesson. School prices go up, kids don't show up. Gang signs get thrown up, progression getting slowed up. Politicians speak on it, they acting like they know us. They just wanna control us with the lies that they told us. And I don't stand for it. Every other day, got a body on the camcorder, and we don't get no damn order. And Flint ain't get no damn water. On the gram, watch another black man slaughtered. Either that or the can, they had a plan for it. They stopped slavery and opened prisons. And we all know religion causes division. You gotta see the vision and make a decision. Grew up in the streets, so the mission, they know that I'm with it. I feel like Nat Turner on the back burner, waiting for my time to rise. Started on the crack corner. We ain't have nothing but a pack on us. Police spin the block, they was trying to snap on us. Mama rent due, he trying to get that stack for. But D's caught him round the corner with that crack on him.
Through the hell of rain, heard him say it won't be the same. Reason why we praise, cause we know we'll find better days. Soaring to heaven gates, and we won't be late. Soaring to heaven gates, and we won't be late.
Hey yo, I'm numb to the pain, scarred by the game, reminiscing on them days like a slave locked in a cage. It's real, I just write how I feel, represent for the youngest, cause I know how they feel. All them nights, no meals, you just mad that your tummy aches, so you on the streets grinding, try and get another plate. I know, I was right there selling sour, trying to save money for some studio hours.
Through the hell of rain, heard him say it won't be the same. Reason why we praise, cause we know we'll find better days. Soaring to heaven gates, and we won't be late. Soaring to heaven gates, and we won't be late. What you know about taking losses? If the defense clip your mans, you gotta change your offense. Enslaved people still line, it's just a different auction. Switch the whips, the nightsticks, a metal guarded fortress. Every block stay cautious, spiritually it gets me nauseous. Fighting off darkly forces, knowing to press my conscience. Knowing this life ain't awesome, skips what's important. Crack came in hand and every black person a coffin. Fear to lay my offspring, I see death often. Babies having babies, government will preach abortion. 1 meal a day, I portion like 3 courses. To break it down, Chuck Norris, you gotta be a tourist. We adapt and fit resources. Watch our kids, we passing torches. If we ever get endorsements, fuck them up on college courses. Yes, the process metamorphed this legacy, the only fortune. Jealousy is not important. What for all to split our portions?
I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm just trying to survive.